here in Rutherford County, particularly those of you all who are property-owning taxpayers in Rutherford County. I'm Jason Mumpower. I'm the Comptroller of the Treasury for the state of Tennessee. I know always how excited local government officials are to see the Comptroller. So to have me down tonight is indeed a special honor. I do have with me tonight several people from the Comptroller's office that I want to introduce to you. Jennifer Pfeiffer, Chief of Staff in my office. Rachel Buckley, General Counsel for the Comptroller. John Dunn is somewhere upstairs driving the slideshow. In particular, we have Brian Kinsey and Ryan Duggan and Brett Bombick from our Division of Property Assessments, along with Brian Berkland from our Division of Local Government Audit. I do appreciate the mayors and city officials being here tonight as well. The issues we're going to talk about tonight have a direct impact on our municipalities as well as the county. What I am here tonight to talk about is the work we have been doing in regard to Rutherford County property assessments. We've been performing that work at the direction of the State Board of Equalization. I am here to share with you tonight about what has essentially been a 2-year process, a process that we have rarely had to undertake in the Comptroller's office, especially not in a large and sophisticated county like Rutherford County. I don't need to tell you all that Rutherford County has a lot going for it. In addition to a variety of duties, the Comptroller's office, we're the repository for census data in the state. And you are the fastest growing county in the state of Tennessee, and you are among the very fastest growing counties in the nation. I know I don't need to tell you that. I've been in Rutherford County quite a bit this week. The past couple of days I've been out at a state conference at the Embassy Suites, and every time I come out there, sometimes 2 weeks in a row, I feel like something new has been built out there. And I know that's the way it is all across Rutherford County. You have a very dynamic property market here. Now, as I start tonight, this is kind of something I want you to have in your mind. And it is not an understatement to say everything in county government, everything in city government is built on the work of the property assessor. Everything in county government, everything in city government is built on the work of the property assessor. It is the work of the property assessor that allows property taxes to be levied and collected. And you all know that local governments in Tennessee are built largely on property tax. Having a capable assessor with trained staff is essential. The work of the county's property assessor must be like a firm foundation for everything in the county. But unfortunately, as I'll explain to you tonight, in Rutherford County, the assessor's work is more like a pile of sinking sand. So, let me start the presentation. We'll have slides on the screen for you. One of the key responsibilities we have in the Comptroller's office is to oversee the work that is done by property assessors in all 95 Tennessee counties. And there is no doubt that property assessments can be complicated and time-consuming. At the end of the day, though, there is a standard written for us, and that standard is written in the Tennessee Constitution. The Tennessee Constitution says that there must be fair and equitable assessments across the state when it comes to property assessment. When property assessments are not done correctly, it shakes that very foundation of the system that I've been talking about. When you don't have assessments done in a fair and equitable manner, property-owning taxpayers lose confidence in the taxes they are paying. The tax rate that you set, and we all understand that's not good. If our citizens need anything, when we all have to pay our tax bill, it is the confidence to know that they are paying the right amount and that their money is being used wisely. So as I'm talking about the project that we have been working on recently, let me give you a timeline. I told you I'm really talking about a 2-year process. Let me give you a timeline. You see on the screen, we began to really pick up on problems in the Rutherford County Assessor's Office 2 years ago. The Comptroller statutorily is required to provide both oversight and assistance to property assessors across the state. As a part of that, we routinely monitor county assessment work. And back in 2023, we began to notice that, in particular, new construction, new buildings were being left off the tax roll here in Rutherford County. That is a fundamental task that was not being done correctly. We also saw the assessor and staff creating changes to properties, such as an addition to a home. However, those changes were not being put, maybe an improvement was not being put on the tax roll in the year that it occurred. Again, a very fundamental responsibility of an assessor and their staff. As a result, you probably remember, if you were on the commission then, that Rutherford County received 2 audit findings in fiscal year 2024, and the assessor at that time said the issues would be corrected. But unfortunately, the problems didn't stop. In 2024, we received new complaints saying the same thing was still happening. And we also learned that many properties were on the tax roll with incorrect square footage. Now, after my team and our Division of Property Assessments verified those issues, you may remember I sent a letter to the county in September of 2024. You can see that letter up on the screen. And I expressed concern, and I directed my Division of Property Assessments to enhance the oversight that we were exhibiting. Now, at that point, my staff began to meet with the assessor's office weekly. When we met with the assessor and his staff, we offered feedback, we offered training, we answered questions. Essentially, I think you could say that at that point in time, the assessor was given a second chance to correct the problems which I've mentioned, and ultimately, we decided, working closely with your assessor, that the issues at hand needed to be fixed by February 3rd of 2025. So back in February of this year, February 3rd of 2025, the assessor submitted his corrections, and we found that even the attempted corrections were riddled with errors. At that point, on March 4th of 2025, our Division of Property Assessments went before the Tennessee State Board of Equalization, which determined by a unanimous vote that the assessor was in a position called non-compliance. After that hearing, where the State Board of Equalization found unanimous non-compliance, the assessor was given another 60 days to correct the problems. And while some progress was made, ultimately, it was strike 3. At that same time, the assessor sued the State Board of Equalization and sued the Office of the Comptroller of the Treasury. But that lawsuit was ultimately dismissed in August. The State Board of Equalization directed my office to step in and take the steps necessary to ensure compliance with state law and bill the county for all costs incurred. Now, we have been doing that work as directed by the State Board of Equalization since June, which brings us to where we are today, having basically completed our work at the direction of the State Board. Now, I want to say up front, as I explain to you what's been happening, that we did not review every parcel in Rutherford County. Doing so would have taken extensive work and would have needed quite a bit of personnel from my office. And as you know, we have 94 other counties that we're working to serve every day as well. What we did do was examine 8,683 of Rutherford County's parcel of property. This was from the list of parcels that the State Board of Equalization ordered the county to review, and the same parcels that the assessor's office had reviewed at least twice before. Now let me say that again because I want you to focus on this. We reviewed 8,683 of Rutherford County's property parcels. This was from the list of parcels directed by the State Board of Equalization to be reviewed. And these were the same parcels that the assessor's office had reviewed twice before. The State Board of Equalization tasked us with looking for square footage errors as well as proration errors. A proration error occurs when improvements to properties are not being put on the tax roll at the time of their completion, thereby allowing property owners to avoid their fair share of property taxes. Interestingly, amazingly, of these properties that your assessor had had 2 opportunities to review, we found errors still in 25% of those properties. There are, at this date, a handful of parcels that are still being reviewed both by the assessor's office and our staff. So the final error rate will be calculated when that is done, but it will be somewhere around 1 in 4, or 25%. Now imagine, I know some of you, I don't know all of you, I don't know what you do, but imagine whatever you do if you had an error rate in your work that was 25%. It's kind of hard to think about, isn't it? Let me give you some examples. I don't want to just talk in the abstract. Let me give you some actual examples up here on the screen. You can see right there on the screen that many of the issues involved square footage errors. You see a picture of a house right there on the screen. It is an example of an obvious discrepancy in square footage. The assessor had this home listed with 1,911 square feet upstairs, with an 1,800 square foot garage and a living area of 1,310 square feet downstairs. Even to the untrained eye, it is obvious that the top floor of that house is not bigger than the bottom floor. The house right next door to it, here's a picture of it on screen, a very similar design. It is actually listed at a more reasonable 2,008 square feet of living area versus the 3,221 square feet of the living area of the subject house on the left. This error is causing an overvaluation of $217,000 in appraised value. And what that means is that property owner where the house was overvalued is owed a tax refund of $1,019 per year. This taxpayer in the house that was overvalued has been paying more than $1,000 in taxes they didn't owe for years in a row. Another example of a square footage error that is causing one of your Rutherford County property owning taxpayers to pay more than their fair share. Right here you can see that the assessor's office shows that this house is 61 feet wide, while in reality it is only 44 feet wide. The assessor's office also incorrectly measured the back porch on this home. An error like this is caused by one of simple quality control and an over-reliance on aerial imaging. It's not just residential. Right here you see a square footage area that was impacting a commercial building. The assessor's office records showed this building had 3 canopies. In reality, it only had 1. You can see it marked with a red pin right up there in the corner of the photo. The other 2 items marked as canopies were actually flower beds and not accessible on the property tax roll. Again, a lack of quality control and over-reliance on aerial imaging. Continuing with an example of square footage errors, we noted that frequently sketch errors were common. That is something that causes square footage to be incorrect. The back of this house, if you look right up there at the picture, the back of this house has a small utility shed to it. You can see it circled in the photo on the screen. The assessor's sketch showed this shed was part of the livable area of the home. On the right, you can see that the shed is colored blue, just like the rest of the living area of that home. Once again, another Rutherford County taxpayer who's being overcharged due to a lack of training and quality control in the assessor's office. Another sketch error, and this one is particularly sloppy. The before picture is on the left. You can see in the sketch there that there are several curved lines where none should exist. This house, like most, has straight sides. On the bottom is the comptroller's corrected sketch. Again, a lack of quality control and training end up in these errors. Now, it wasn't just square footage errors. You've heard me reference that there are a number of properties that should have been on the tax roll, but were not. Here's a few pictures. Right up there on the left, you can see two buildings. One is a large farm shop, one is a mobile home. Both of these buildings were on the same property back in 2023, but the assessor wasn't planning to put them on the tax roll until 2026. Now, actually, during our review of that property, we found a third building, another home that was on that property that also wasn't on the tax roll. There was, very unfortunately, a common bad practice within the assessor's office of pushing completed properties out to a reappraisal year, 2026, in the example that I have given you. What that does is deprives Rutherford County of revenue due today, and what it does, more importantly, is shift a higher tax burden to property owners who are already rightfully on the tax roll. Here's another example of pushing a completed property out to the next tax year. These 9 townhomes that you see in the picture were actually completed in August of 2025, just a couple months ago. Therefore, the owners this property should go on the tax roll, and the owners should be charged prorated taxes from August through the end of the year. But instead, until we got involved, the assessor's office was not going to put these 9 townhomes on the tax roll at all until 2026, thereby again depriving the county of revenue, but thereby again, more importantly, overburdening the Rutherford County property owning taxpayers already on the roll. Now keep in mind, as I said just a few minutes ago, these are the same problems that we were seeing back in 2023, 2 years ago. The assessor's office pledged to fix them. They said they had fixed them, but in August it was the same old ways. So in this situation, you have someone escaping a tax bill, but as you saw earlier, you also have property owners like this homeowner who has been paying an extra $1,000 for the last 4 years in a row. This is far from the constitutional standard of fair and equitable. I want to share a little information about something else that no doubt you'll find interesting. It's actually been in the news here in Rutherford County lately. While we were reviewing the property assessor's office records, we noticed that the assessor's chief deputy, identified by the login code there, or perhaps somebody else using his login, made an entry on a property's transactional change record that reflected a physical change to the property. This entry occurred in 2024, but the change was pushed out so that it wouldn't be part of the assessment until 2026. Because this practice has already been addressed by the Division of Property Assessments with the assessor and appeared to be continuing, we asked about it back on January 3rd of 2025. Curiously, when we checked 4 days later, that entry was gone. We then discovered that numerous other entries reflecting changes to properties had been deleted. We were unfortunately unable to determine who made these changes. We can only determine that these record deletions and changes were made by a manual process, not an automatic process. To say that this is very irregular is an understatement. So now that you have seen a few examples of the problems, let's talk about what's next. Our review is basically complete or very near completion, and we have provided the necessary information to the assessor's office to make corrections. It is now inherent on the assessor and his team that they must input all of the corrections into the office's system software, and for your taxpayers, thousands of new tax bills will need to be sent out or refunds will need to be issued. By the way, that puts your trustee, Tab Beatty, who is here, as well as your city collecting agencies in a terrible position. They are behind the 8 ball, to say the least, because your assessor and his staff are not capable. You're very fortunate to have an excellent trustee here in Rutherford County who I think is up to the task, but the task will be large. Now, our office has pledged that we will provide support and quality control on the back end of this process. But you are going to have constituents, hundreds, thousands collectively, who will either have an additional tax bill or a tax refund due. I imagine your phones are going to ring as a result of that too. Now, in total, in meeting the mandate of the State Board of Equalization, which ordered us to come in and correct the assessments and then charge, in keeping with the Tennessee Code Annotated, charge Rutherford County for the work, the Comptroller's Office has devoted 22 staff members to this project since it began in June. My 22 dedicated property professionals have worked a total of 4,676 hours, and in accordance with Tennessee Code Annotated 675505C, which says the county found in non-compliance shall reimburse the state for all costs incurred, Rutherford County will be receiving an invoice for $234,165.67 as a result of the assessor's finding of non-compliance. Now, let me say this. No doubt this all could have been avoided. I assure you we didn't want to be here. I assure you we wanted the assessor to correct his office's problems on their own. It is in part why at least the assessor's office was given 3 opportunities to address these problems independently. And after those multiple failed opportunities, it is why the State Board of Equalization in a unanimous vote directed the Comptroller's Office to take this action. Now, beyond the errors and the specific problems I have mentioned, there are other things that you should know. The first, I want to say, quite unfortunately, is that the assessor and his leadership team weren't only not helpful throughout this process, they were deliberately obstructive to this process. The assessor went so far as to file a lawsuit against the State Board of Equalization and against the Office of the Comptroller to try to stop this. As I have pointed out, someone in the assessor's office erased public data. When my team arrived in the assessor's office, we were hastily threatened not to talk to employees in the assessor's office. And we can tell you that the staff were actively changing parcel data during our review in order to hide the wrong information in the system. You all may know I'm one of Tennessee's 3 constitutional officers elected by the legislature. Your assessor went so far as to call members of the legislature and ask them to crack down on me so I would lighten up on him, even though we were working on behalf of the property-owning taxpayers of Rutherford County. Now, I will also let you know, because I think it's important as Rutherford County's Board of Directors that you know, that what we ran into shows that the assessor's office workplace culture is not at all what it needs to be. We saw this firsthand. There is a terrible tone at the top in your assessor's office. There is a lack of trust between the assessor's staff and office leadership. People are afraid to speak up about their concerns or if they have questions. As a result, when we were in the office working, it was very common for assessor's office staff to pull my staff aside for private conversations about what was really happening in the office. As for training, and this is an important point that you understand as well, I've met with the assessor personally multiple times, and he readily admits that his staff are not properly trained. Neither he nor his staff are properly trained. That is because the assessor has failed to make sure his staff are trained. As a matter of fact, I have personally pledged to offer my team of property professionals to provide the necessary training for the Rutherford County Assessor's staff, but they are not taking advantage of the opportunities being offered. In July of this year, the Comptroller's Office sponsored a free 2-day training class in Nashville, which was all taught by Marshall and Swift, a leading organization in the assessment field. Many counties across this state sent their staff to be trained. No one from Rutherford County was there. I can tell you the assessor has also not been sending his staff to the training classes our office provides otherwise. And the individual, just for Rutherford training that we've offered, never taken advantage of. Nevertheless, when I talked about the issues with your assessor that I have mentioned to you tonight, he readily blamed his staff, he blamed their lack of training, and did not accept responsibility. And I recognize, these comments are hard to hear. They're hard for me to have to deliver to you. It could seem to you that I have something out for your assessor, but I'll tell you, nothing could be further from the truth. One of the nicest guys I have ever met. I've known him for years. Super nice guy. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do, though, with the very dire and dangerous situation going on here in Rutherford County. I am here tonight because this is such a dire situation directly impacting the people of Rutherford County. What I can tell you is, after 2 years of working with your assessor's office and giving them chance after chance after chance to get things right, here is where I come down, and here is what you need to know tonight. As I said in the beginning, we all know that Rutherford County is one of the fastest growing counties in the nation. People are coming here to raise their families. When they come here, they expect well-run services and facilities like school buildings. What I will tell you tonight, whether you are in this room, whether you are watching on video, or whether you're going to read about this in the newspaper tomorrow, based on the work we have performed, there is not one property-owning taxpayer in Rutherford County that should have any degree of confidence in their property assessment. Every property-owning taxpayer in Rutherford County needs to go home tonight and check your assessment card to make sure it's accurate. We only looked at a small portion of your properties, but more than 25% of them had errors, and that came after multiple chances to get it right. Instead of being obstructive to the process, it is time for your assessor and his leadership team to admit they have a problem, because they have yet to do that. That, as we know, admitting there is a problem is the first step to recovery, and it is certainly needed here. It is beyond time for excuses. It is beyond time for finger pointing. It is beyond time for legal wranglings. The job of a leader is to own the mistakes, not blame his staff, and unless the assessor accepts responsibility, none of the many steps we have recommended will have an impact. Go back and reference something. My pages have gotten turned around on me. So there are, as I begin to come to the end of my presentation, two items that I want to recommend and think that you need to take here in Rutherford County. Number one, I believe this commission needs to order that an independent review be performed of every parcel in Rutherford County. We in the Comptroller's Office are involved with international assessment organizations, and we can help you find, there are multiple, but we can help you find a responsible contractor that can come in and perform an independent third-party assessment of all your properties in Rutherford County. That data, that work that I recommend you have done, needs to be reported back to you, the members of the County Commission, and other leaders in Rutherford County. There is no doubt that that will come at a cost, probably an expensive one. But I would ask you, if you're worried about that, what price do you put on the confidence in your taxpayers have when they're billed the taxes they owe? You need an independent third-party evaluation of every parcel in Rutherford County. I also believe it is time for Rutherford County to be on the state's property appraisal software system known as Impact. Today, 86 out of 95 Tennessee counties are on that system. If you don't know what Impact is, every assessor uses a computer-assisted assessment tool. The state of Tennessee subsidizes that system for any county that wants to adopt it. Again, 86 out of the 95 counties are on the system today. As taxpayers, as Tennessee taxpayers, Rutherford County citizens are already contributing to the cost of this system, but they are not getting to take advantage of it because your assessor has currently decided that he should use another system. We did have a situation like this arise over in an East Tennessee county a few years ago, and as a matter of fact, that night that I made a presentation like this to them, the county commission voted immediately to switch to the state system. When a county is on the state system, it is much more transparent. My Division of Property Assessments, which is statutorily charged with oversight and assistance for Assessor's Office, can better help counties and help taxpayers have confidence in their work. Not to mention, it is a more affordable option for your taxpayers. 2026 is a reappraisal year for you here in Rutherford County. Your certified tax rate will be reset, and your citizens deserve to know their assessments are fair and equitable. That is going to take significant and meaningful changes, which must start immediately. What I suggest to you tonight is that up until this time, your assessor has knowingly and willingly neglected to offer fair and equitable assessments to the people of Rutherford County. I'll say it again as I said it when I started. The assessor's work must be the county's firm foundation, not sinking sand. I appreciate the time you have given me tonight to present this information to you. I'll be happy to take any questions if you have them right now.
Mr. Chairman. Comptroller Mumpower, thank you for coming with the report. Why wasn't this available before tonight?
Yes.
How long has this been available? Why are we being surprised with it this evening?
Why are you being surprised with the report?
Yes, sir. Why wasn't it available for our review beforehand so that we could make a reasonable assessment and be prepared to ask questions? It's a threshold question.
Sure. The report that I just gave you, I actually finalized today in Nashville before I came down. More than a month ago, I inquired at the commission and told you I wanted to come and give you a report on the work that had been done. That's what I'm here to do tonight. That's why I delivered it to you tonight.
Thank you. A number of us had asked a number of folks if there was going to be any kind of presentation available, something along those lines, it would have been very helpful because it basically takes us off guard. Just looking at this very briefly, is there going to be a report that you're going to provide to us? You mentioned a whole bunch of statistics, a whole bunch of anecdotal statements, examples. Very little in the way of substance, in my view. I mean, there's anecdotal analysis here, but there's nothing supporting it. How did you come up with, for example, the analysis for the 8,683 properties? How did you do that? How did you determine there were square footage errors? How did you determine there were proration errors?
How did we do it?
Yes, sir.
We had, again...
Let's go back. Let's take a step back before we even get there. Because I, like I'm sure a lot of people in here, are concerned about two things. Okay? One, this report being sprung on us without any opportunity to look at it and think about it. Is there going to be a report provided by your office that's going to detail everything so that we can take a look at all of the supporting documentation? So that we can take a look at the history, make sure we understand how this came about. Okay, so that we can take a look at the statistical analysis. Was it statistically valid? Okay, we don't know that. You didn't say anything about that. I assume it was, but candidly, I don't know. Okay, I don't know let's see. Well, go ahead. I'll let you respond. Sorry.
What I can tell you is I've had 22 property professionals from my office working on this over the last several months, as I detailed for you. All the information, the analysis that we did is publicly available data. It is provided to the assessor. It is for the assessor and his staff to enter it into the system. So I'll be happy to provide you a copy of the report I delivered to you tonight. But there is nothing anecdotal about it. It is factual and demonstrable for the properties that were incorrect and now have been corrected.
Certainly the ones that you mentioned, I have no reason to doubt. However, how many were over $1,000? Different.
How many were over $1,000? How many led to more than $1,000 in tax change?
Yes.
As I'm standing here, I don't know, but we'll be happy to work to provide you information.
Okay, well, that would have been good before we go public, in my view. We should have maybe had a report to the commission with the basic facts, because I'm concerned, candidly, that a lot of people are going to see all this and draw conclusions without having the opportunity to look at a report. How did you determine square footage errors?
Again, my staff of property professionals did the work necessary to determine the accurate square footages.
Okay, so you're not familiar with it. Would any of your staff like to speak to this?
Clearly, sir, I can see you're coming from, a certain angle, and I appreciate that.
I'm trying to be fair to your office, and I appreciate the work. However, I want to be fair to Rutherford County taxpayers. You've just spent $250,000 of Rutherford County taxpayer money, and I'm trying to assess how you determine square footage errors, how you determine proration errors, and you don't know.
Well, no, absolutely, I do know. Our team of property professionals used a variety of means to determine that, whether that was on-site surveying out here in the field in Rutherford County, whether it was using property sketches that were readily available. I certainly do know. We do it the way we do them across the state every day.
And that's fair, but it would have been nice to have that data, maybe a report, as we're getting a presentation that's clearly slanted one direction.
It is only slanted in the direction of the truth.
And if
it is only slanted in the direction of the truth on behalf of your Rutherford County taxpayers who have been suffering unnecessarily under the burden of incompetent work. I assure you that that is why I'm here tonight.
Let's see, if all the changes were made, how much plus or minus tax would there be in Rutherford County?
I have been working working on that data. We are at the stage of finishing up, and I'm not able to give you a specific number there. I know what I think an estimate of that is in my mind, but
Are we talking $1,000, $1 million, $10 million?
it's going to be in the upper range there. Not it's going to be more than $1 million.
More than $1 million, less than $2 million.
I don't know.
Okay.
We're going to see.
Okay.
Commissioner Irvin, we need to let others ask questions.
I'll be glad to yield.
Anyone else? Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner P.
I want to address a couple questions. First, to start with your second recommendation. I hope this mic is coming through clearly, but the state impact system that you mentioned, what's the difference in cost? You got any idea what that would cost us if we decided to go to that?
Brian, I don't know if you can speak. Do you have that number right off, what the cost would be? No, I'm talking about Brian Kinsey. Do you know a number right off? If Rutherford were to move to impact, what would it cost? We would have to compare that to what your current contract is in Rutherford County, but I feel like it would be less than you're currently paying for what I would call better, more transparent service.
Okay, now the other suggestion, I'll say suggestion, was to have a third-party review. And I don't want to get into a lot of discussion on this because we do have lawsuits pending, but I want to make a suggestion, and I want to ask our attorney and our finance director, if we gave you two the initiative to look into alternatives that we have, say, and report back to us within 2 weeks. That might be looking at a third party, whatever else we need to do to get into compliance and what it would cost us. How soon could y'all report back to this commission and let us know what we could do, or can you?
Commissioner P., I have a suggested motion to present to you at the end of this, and it addresses both of those.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
If they could, let me know if that's something they can do.
Others? Commissioner Davison.
I just wanted to know if you could very clearly explain to our residents how to get their own assessments.
Sure. Well, if the question was if I could explain to residents, perhaps who are here watching online or something like that, how to get their own assessment record. Number one, those were at one point in time during your last reappraisal mailed to every property owner. If you don't still have the copy that was mailed to you, it is available online through the website, and you go and the Rutherford County Property Assessor's website has a search tool where you can go and find your parcel of property and look at it tonight even.
Commissioner Oliver.
Yes, I concur with a lot of what my colleagues said, but I want to find out how soon can you get the data to us that supports the accusations made here so that we can have the information to make informed decisions?
Well, again, the changes directed by the Office of the Comptroller have already been submitted to your assessor's office to be keyed in. So you can go down there tomorrow and start to look at them. I'm sure if your assessor will make that available. Not
changes. What supports what you're putting out here to the public? What data do you have to support this? When will we be able to see that? And can this report be put on SharePoint for ourselves and for the citizens? So the data that you're asking about is what I just said. We reviewed the parcels. We submitted the necessary changes back to the assessor's office for entry into the system, and that is what you want to see. And sure, I'm happy to. Not really.
I'm happy to make a copy of this available. Not really. I'm talking about the information that you used to come up with this is not in your report.
I'm not talking about changes you want somebody else to make. I want that real data
Sure.
that you utilize to form this opinion. When can we get that? And can we get that?
Again, it's already been submitted to your assessor's office for entry into the system, so you could go as soon as tomorrow during business
So
hours.
if I went to the assessor's website, whatever, or the office, what would I look for?
You would need to go to the assessor's office and ask for a comprehensive list of the changes as directed by the State Board of Equalization order.
And so why couldn't that be included in your report?
Well, it would be voluminous spreadsheet type data. It would be CAMA system data. If I put it in a PowerPoint form, it would just be like columns of data.
But you expect me to go get those columns of data from the assessor's office?
Well, they can produce it for you in what's called a property tax card or a property record card in a way that it's discernible.
But you couldn't put that in your report where it's
I couldn't.
discernible?
It would be thousands of slides long.
Commissioner Oliver, just to follow up with that, this presentation will be made available to our county attorney and Mayor Carr by next week, and that will be disseminated to the commissioners next week. I'm sorry. Yes. Craig.
Commissioner, thank you. Thank you for your report. I appreciate it. You said that your team of 22 overlooked about 8,000 parcels. Mm-hmm. How long did that take you to do that?
I can go back in here if I can. My pages got shuffled, but I can tell you specifically, John, you might go back to that slide. If you can hear me, I can give you right here 22 staff dedicated 4,676 very well documented hours on that work.
So 4,600 hours for 8,000 parcels. So it's safe to say it's going to be a substantial amount to do 130,000. So if we bring in an independent organization, which you recommended, so how long would it take them to do the reassessments?
I can't.
So it'd be a substantial amount of money.
It would be no doubt a financial investment, but I would say again, what is the price you put on the confidence of your Rutherford County taxpayers? That's the only way I know to answer that question.
Well, I'm 100% behind that. So I'm just trying to get an idea of 4,008. That's a lot of stuff. And can we get that done before the 2026 reappraisal?
That's why I would start right away. That is things like people driving around Rutherford County looking at properties with their own eyes. That's computer work. We have all that time well documented.
Any others? Commissioner Irvin, do you have a follow-up?
So that was half an hour for each parcel?
It was 4,676.
Did they go out and visit each parcel and measure the square footage for each?
We did. We did through a variety of means. Brian, would you want to expand on the different methods we used?
No, I just want to make sure y'all measure the square. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
We measured the ones that we determined needed to be measured.
Physically, you went out to every 8,000 some odd parcels? Okay, explain exactly what you did, please.
We used a variety of methods, whether it was aerial imagery, existing sketches.
Commissioner McAdoo, would you? Never mind.
I said we use a variety of methods, whether it be aerial imagery, existing sketches, field inspections. We, stretched the tape where needed, knocked on the door, talked to someone where needed.
Okay, how many did you go and visit?
Sorry?
How many did you go and visit?
I don't know how many we actually visited on site.
Thank you, Brian. This is what I will tell you. We use the methods we use every day in the other 94 counties that don't have the issues that are going on here in Rutherford County.
And that's great, but I'm trying to assess what you did in Rutherford County. That's all I'm trying to do.
We did in Rutherford County. We did in Rutherford County what we do every day from Mountain City to Memphis to ensure fair and equitable assessments across the state.
And how did you determine proration errors?
Again, I would ask Brian, do you have anything you want to add to that? I mean, that's pretty
In other
easily
words,
discernible.
of the half hour that was spent on a parcel, you're looking at some amount to determine square footage and some amount to determine the proration. I'm trying to kind of figure out how you did square footage. A variety of methods is what I'm hearing. I'd like to see kind of the data for each of those to understand kind of what you used. And also, for the proration ones, I'd love to see kind of the timelines and the dates and everything else. I'm just trying to get data at this point.
Sure.
And I'm not.
Again,
Please go ahead.
the data
Can you
has been,
explain that?
the data has been submitted to your assessor's office. Brian, do you want to talk?
So is your question about proration at this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There's a variety of methods. There's certain statutory triggers that determine when a property is substantially complete and ready for assessment. You've got to weigh all the different variables. You can't hang your hat on any one method. You look at things like, first of all, you track building permits and you track certificates of occupancy or completion. You can do a site inspection. And in some cases, there's aerial imagery that's current. You can look at an aerial image that was flown 3 months ago and see a building is there and complete, yet that building's not on the tax roll yet. You've got to use a variety of methods. You can't just say, well, I've relied on this one method. You've got to weigh the variables. You've got to make a decision based upon the facts that are present with each one. So we looked at a variety of things to arrive at what was the most probable, logical date that that property was complete.
And while the square footage errors are bothersome, it is the proration errors that bother me the most, because that means that taxpayers who have had properties on the roll already are overburdened with their share of tax.
And that bothers me too. How many were paid too much tax?
Again, you're going to have, I believe, more than 2,000 people who have either more tax due or refunds due. My estimation today is that more of those are going to have tax due.
And how much roughly per?
Again, I'm not going to speculate on that final dollar amount right now, because when you throw a dollar amount out there, it's printed in the paper and takes off. So I'm going to wait for accuracy rather than approximation.
And how long before we can get, you keep throwing it off on the appraiser's office, I get it. But when can you put this on a website or something that we can look at, independent, your analysis, y'all's studies, okay, that basically we can look at independent of the appraiser's office? Because I'd really like to see, if they're not doing as good a job as you say they're doing, then I'd like to see independent analysis from you, your office, what you relied on, what you did, so that we can make an assessment independently of your work.
Certainly. Again, all this data is publicly available and has already been provided. Clearly, I'm not going to buy into the hyperbole of your verbiage when you talk about me throwing off on your assessor. There is no targeting of your assessor.
I'll withdraw that.
There is no targeting of your assessor. If I'm doing anything tonight, I'm standing up for Rutherford County taxpayers.
Well,
Commissioner Irvin, we need to draw this to a close. I think Mr. Mumpower has to drive to Bristol, Tennessee tonight.
I am driving to Bristol
We want to
tonight.
get him on the road. One more question. Commissioner McAdoo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know you mentioned that we should look at a third party, but can our planning department assist with this assessment? Could you give me an answer?
I, of course, am not familiar with the people in your planning department, but I would dare say they are probably not extensively trained property assessment professionals. If they are, you need to shift them to the property assessor's office.
Let me just kind of follow up by thanking you, Mr. Mumpower, for you and your staff for attending tonight and sharing with us some of your presentation is disturbing, and Your recommendations are well received. The statement here, if you don't mind, try to draw this to a conclusion. The chair would entertain a motion that the county attorney and our finance director investigate what is necessary from a legal and financial standpoint, number one, for the county to hire an outside third-party company to conduct a review of all parcels within the county that need correction, and two, what is necessary to have Rutherford County be brought into the state of Tennessee CAMA impact system, and to present what they have found to the county commission at our next county commission meeting, which will be in November. We have a motion and a second. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, if I can, let me again say thank you to all of you. I've been a member of a legislative elected body just like you are here. I understand the sacrifices you make to serve your citizens. I assure you that the mission statement of the Tennessee Comptroller's Office is to make government work better. If there is a dollar or a dime in Tennessee, we are looking out for it every day on your behalf and on your taxpayers' behalf, and that is the spirit I am here in tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.